Have you said your prayers tonight? The Queen is here, and we owe her all our devotion. The Savage Garden Talks is once again here to dive into the Vampire Lestat, Episode 5, New York. And this was such an amazing episode. My rating for this episode is 4.5 stars. Almost 5 stars, and I'm not giving it the full 5 stars because of the mischaracterization of another character that is not Gabriella. I'm done with Gabriella. I know she's a completely different character, a two-dimensional villain, so I'm not wasting my time in her anymore. But there is another character that we need to discuss. But putting that aside, the overlapping storylines in this episode were perfectly matched because all of them cover a single theme in common, which is memory. And this is the main motivation of this show, memories and regrets. And we have Louis remembering Claudia through Regina, and then Armand telling Daniel about the way he's been stalking him for his whole life practically. And then we have Lestat remembering the time he got the Queen's blood. We need to begin with that. But before we get into the Queen's territory, we need to talk about this. A male? What? That wasn't expected. Like, if you know the books, you may know Amel's story and where does he come from, which is absolutely insane. But to summarize it, Amel is the spirit that actually made the vampires. He was a spirit that lusted blood. He was always after blood. And so because of a cursed Mekare put into Akasha, he possessed Akasha. He became part of Akasha's body. And that's how the first vampire was ever made. In the book, after everything that happened with Akasha and the genocide of men and vampires, Maharet and Mekare defeat Akasha, and Mekare absorbs a male spirit through Akasha's heart and brain. And so Mekare became the new Queen of the Damned. But years later, Mekare is not well, and she's not coping with a male spirit inside of her. So she inherits a male to Lestat, and now Lestat is the new Queen of the Damned, or the Prince Lestat, which is the late trilogy of the books. But all of that happens long after everything that happened with Akasha. So that's why I'm shocked to see Amel being mentioned in here, especially as a first person for Lestat, as being in Lestat's brain, body and mind. I always had the feeling like that in this show they were going to mix the storylines of the Queen of the Damned and Prince Lestat, but because there are some similarities in them. But I was not expecting to get Amel inside Lestat so quick. And my theory is that maybe instead of Mekare getting Amel after she defeats Akasha, maybe Mekare makes Lestat take the spirit into his body because he's the new prince of the vampires or something like that. But I'm intrigued and I'm surprised that we are this far away in the present in the show. Going back to our queen, Sheila Atim is absolutely perfect. She's a dream come true, at least for me, because she's everything I've always dreamt for Akasha. And we had her for such a short time, and yet she gave us one of the best performances of the entire season. It was absolutely insane. I love how they gave her like multicolored eyes, because you know she's the core, she's the source of everything. So she has like all of the vampire eye colors in hers. It's such a good detail. I also love the way Lestat feels so small next to her. He feels so vulnerable because you can feel the enormous power, the enormous presence she has. And Lestat feels like a small child next to this universal entity. I like the change they made to the way Akasha awakens for the first time with Lestat compared to the book. Because in the books, when Lestat accidentally awakens Akasha, she makes like this creepy, high-pitched sound that doesn't stop, and Lestat gets pretty freaked out about it. And in here, instead of just giving her a single sound, which is pretty creepy in the books, but to make it more interesting for the audience, they gave her this amazing and chilling monologue that really shows what Akasha is as a character, the female rage in her, all of the questionings that she's been having since she was a mortal human, because as a human she was always tormenting the twins, Mekare and Maharet, with lots of questions. And she also knows she's the answer. She also knows she can dominate the world because she has this tremendous power. And it was a perfect monologue to represent what she is as a character and to make an introduction of her into the story. She also makes some allusions to the twins when she says, and I quote, "Why is a male in their mouth? Why is her tongue cut out?" That is amazing because the twins are essential characters to these stories. The vampires wouldn't exist without the twins. Akasha wouldn't be what she is right now without the twins. They are the origin of everything. I mean, Amel is also part of them. Amel is also part of this great genesis of the vampires. But the twins are essential, and I like that we got a brief mention of them. Moving on now to Marius. I love the actor, but I don't love the adaptation of the character. Marius losing his mind after taking care of those who must be kept for so many centuries is such a big mischaracterization of the character. In the books, the guy that is the keeper before Marius actually loses his mind after taking care of those who must be kept for such a long time. He actually and purposely exposed Akasha and Enkil to the sun because he was trying to exterminate all the vampires on Earth because he was tired. And there were many vampires that lost their lives because of it, and some other vampires, more powerful vampires, just got like crispy and burned. But then, commanded by his maker Tezcamen, Marius takes over the job. And one of the main traits of Marius in the books is that he is a good caretaker. One of his main traits is that he was able to keep his mental sanity throughout the millennia while taking care of those who must be kept. And now Marius is the keeper that is losing his mind because of all the time he spent with these living statues, and he accidentally exposes the parents to the sun, which is such a non-Marius thing. Marius would have never slept like that. He's so careful in the ways he transports those who must be kept from one place to another. He would have never made such a big mistake. And not only with that, they also make Marius take some vacations, and he leaves Lestat in charge as the keeper of those who must be kept for like 10 years, I think they said. And that is actually hilarious because Marius would have never in his life let Lestat take care of those who must be kept because Marius knows how careless Lestat is. That actually made me laugh. How could they misconceive Marius so wrong? And this is actually another misconception of the character, because in here he takes Lestat out of the earth in such a horrific way, because in the books he's very careful and loving about it. And then he takes him to those who must be kept, and he's like, okay, look, I'm going off to some holidays, you need to take care of them, this is what you need to do, goodbye, and disappears. And it's actually another person that abandons Lestat. But Marius doesn't abandon Lestat in the books. Like I said before, one of the main traits of Marius in the books is that he's a caretaker. He likes taking care of people, or of vampires, I should say. And he doesn't just abandon Lestat. He tells Lestat to leave because Akasha awoke and she was in this maniac episode, and Enkil was all aggressive about it. Which, by the way, why is Enkil dead and Marius is just keeping him around? That is weird to me. But going back to the point, Marius actually takes care of Lestat, and he tells him all about vampiric life, how everything originated, how he lives and survives and thrives with his vampirism, with his ethical way of eating people, because Marius only feeds on evildoers. He doesn't feed on people that do good actions, but only people that have genuine evil in their hearts. So it is also very out of character for Marius to just dump Lestat with those who must be kept. Like, that is not him at all. I'm willing to give Marius still a chance, and I hope it's not going to be the same Gabriela scenario, because Rolling John said in the After Dark episode that we're going to get something very brief from Marius in this season, but that they're going to actually develop a whole character arc for him in the show. So I expect for them to make something good out of this character and not just some new original character for the series. The only two things that were actually pretty Marius accurate were the way he was so devoted to Akasha when he kissed her forehead so lovingly and respectfully. That is very Marius core. And also when he tells Lestat, please don't interrupt, you're still interrupting. Like, that is such a fun dynamic between the two of them. Like, he's this big boss and Lestat is this child that keeps asking questions. That was pretty accurate for Marius. The only two things that I actually observed from book Marius. That being said, even though I don't love the way Marius just left Lestat with the responsibility of being the new keeper, I do like that Lestat spent much more time with Akasha this time, because there is a bond, a much more significant bond between them than the bond that there is in the books. Because in the books, Lestat only spend a few moments with Akasha and then he leaves. But in here, they spend moments, lots of moments together. So that would be another good reason for Akasha to take him in the present, to adopt him and make him her prince consort. Now, this whole Regina business is so creepy, yes, but also so heartbreaking and painful, because Louis will never recover from the loss of Claudia. But I think he was in a place for what he did with Bruce, where he was more at peace because he accepted what happened. But after getting revenge on Bruce, he awakened these feelings inside of him that made him want to look for a way, for a mechanism to cope, for a mechanism to make those feelings hurt less. But we know these vampires don't know how to use healthy mechanisms of coping through life. So that's why, yes, it's absolutely horrible, everything he's doing with Regina, but it's so painful as well when he takes Regina's hands when he has her paralyzed. I mean, the last thing Louis touched from Claudia was her hand, and now he's touching Regina's hand, remembering the touch of his daughter. It's so painful, so heartbreaking. I feel so sorry for him. And that other inclusion of the Madeleine's actress was so horrific. I know that was the intention, I'm not complaining, it's just that it was so uncomfortable. That kiss between her and Regina, I think it was the first gay kiss that actually made me gag. I didn't want to see that. It felt so intrusive to Claudia's memories, and it felt so disrespectful and so uncomfortable. But I know it's the way Louis is processing everything, but Jesus Christ, it's really horrible. It also broke my heart to see how Louis was kind of recreating memories of Claudia with Regina, because when they're on the boat and Regina asked him, how's everything with Lemuel? It's very similar to when Louis and Claudia went on the lake on this boat and Claudia is asking him how love works between two men. Then we get Lestat, and it's funny to me that Louis didn't give a shit about Lestat getting shot, because I mean, Louis knew Lestat was okay. Louis knew one single shot was going to kill Lestat. And that is very Louis book accurate too, because Louis doesn't really call Lestat in the books. It's Lestat the one that seeks him more. But in here, okay, Lestat is all sad because Louis didn't care about him. But Louis is like, listen, this is not about you, this is about Claudia and me. I need you to do this for me. And of course Lestat does anything for Louis, and so he goes and checks the situation, and you can see that Regina is actually some sort of doppelganger of Claudia, because Lestat is actually shocked at how much she looks like her. Like, the only thing he doesn't recognize of Claudia in her face is that she doesn't have the sparkly vampiric eyes Claudia had. And this whole situation changed the trajectory of Lestat's music and brought us one of the most painful songs of this season. Stained Glass Eyes. The song, the scene. This is actually the first time that I've properly cried during this season, because I was very emotional throughout the whole Nikki sequence, but we didn't have much time to explore everything that Nikki meant to Lestat, everything that they went through as humans. So we didn't have much time to actually feel our emotions. But with Regina, with Claudia, we are reliving everything we've seen in the whole seasons of this show. So we relive on the memories of Claudia, we're reliving how much Claudia meant to these two freaky vamps, and this song represents so much well the pain, the grief of losing a part of yourself, because Claudia was part of both Louis and Lestat. Louis destroyed her, Lestat gave her life. She was their daughter, and this song was so powerful. Lestat sing Muse Claudia, and then he's rained down on her ashes while he remembers how he lost her, how she gave him that one last stare at him when she was dying. And then we see Claudia sitting next to him, similar to the way she sat next to Lestat and played the piano with Lestat all those years ago in New Orleans. My God, this scene absolutely destroyed me, and I think it's interesting how all of these events will lead Lestat and Louis to seek for Merrick, because we got a glimpse of her in the next episode, and I'm scared about how the whole situation with Ghost Claudia will be. I think our souls are going to be crushed. I don't think we're going to be well after that, but we are not well after all the episodes, so what's new about it? On the other hand, the gremlin is properly gremlin out. First, Devil's Minions. I love that Armand actually brought up to Daniel that he's been stalking Daniel his entire life, practically. I do feel that it is a bit one-sided. I mean, the books, The Devil's Minion, is something chaotic between the two of them. Armand does stalks Daniel, but Daniel also is very freaky with Armand. In here, I felt like Armand stalked Daniel, but Daniel wasn't aware of any of it. But Armand only mentioned the 90s and the 2000s. He didn't mention the 70s or the 80s. So I have hopes for all of that. But I need them to show us more, not just tell us things. I need to see what happened in Devil's Minions. And of course, Larry. Oh my God. Poor Larry. Like, I've been in his place. I know what it feels to feel inferior to someone else, to feel you don't have your true potential, to feel that you cannot be like those amazing and talented musicians that surround you. And oh, I love that Armand is gremlin now, but I felt so sorry for Larry for the way he just died. I wonder how Alex is going to take that, which is interesting because apparently now in the next episode, Alex, Salamander, and Tough Cookie are going to be vampires. They've been hinting at Tough Cookie as a vampire since previous episodes, but apparently she's going to be Lestat fledgling, and I think Alex and Salamander are going to be turned by Gabriella and Sam, the vampire Sam Barclay. So I'm interested in that whole band business because Lestat tells them, that they cannot play the instruments metaphorically as he wants because they are not vampires. That is absolutely a lie. A musician, a true musician, knows how to play instrument metaphorically, knows how to give life and a story to the music. But okay, I understand it. This is for narrative reasons, and so I'm interested in how all of this is going to develop into. I'm also excited because apparently we're going to get this one single event of a concert, which is similar to what happens in the books. In the books there is no tour. Let's not just give one single concert and all Hallows Eve, I mean Halloween night, and that's it. That's the only concert he does. And this, where they're going to, is similar to that event in the books, and I'm really excited. I hope they use New Orleans or San Francisco as the city for him to give the concert, because those two cities are very meaningful to the story. So I'm really eager to see where all of this is going. Next episode is going to be amazing. I'm really excited about it. We're finally going to get some Lestat. We've been yearning for some Lestat for so long, and we're apparently also getting Merrick, so I'm really interested about that. And so see you next week to talk about this amazing show that we all love so dearly.
She drank the blood! She drank drink! And I drank!